What I learned from starting a kids band versus leading the band I had originally founded was the difference between creating something to express myself versus creating something for an audience. So here's a question for all of you product makers out there, all of you brand builders out there. Have you created something for yourself because you enjoy making it or you like to make it, or have you created something that somebody else needs? Welcome to the Nopalera podcast, a place where I share the journey of building my company from the ground up, as well as the stories of others in our community. I am your host, Sandra Velasquez, founder of Nopalera, a culture-forward brand that celebrates and elevates culture. Aside from making great products, we are cultural storytellers with a mission to inspire our community to stand in their worth. In this podcast, you will hear a mix of solo and guest episodes around the entrepreneurial realities of building a company. I launched Nopalera from my Brooklyn apartment with no outside funding while working 3 jobs, raising my child in the middle of the pandemic at the age of 44. Thank you for joining me on this journey. I hope it inspires you to live boldly. Today, I'm going to take it back, all the way back to 1994. Yes, I'm dating myself, y'all. I was a senior in high school, and one of my teachers, Miss Waynick, had us do an exercise. She asked us to write a letter to ourselves in 10 years, detailing who we would be then. When you're 17 or 18, thinking about your future 28-year-old self feels like you may as well be thinking about when you're 68. It seems so far away. You will for sure have everything figured out by the time you're 28, right? Ha. Anyway, the exercise forced us to visualize. What would we be doing? What would our career be? What kind of impact would we be making on the world? What kind of car would we be driving? We wrote the letter to ourselves, sealed it in an envelope, and handed them in. She promised to mail these to us in 10 years. And she did. Unfortunately, I don't have the hard copy anymore, but I do remember most of what I wrote, and one thing in particular stood out. I wrote that I wanted to be a famous musician so that I could play benefit concerts to raise money for causes. Remember, I grew up in the 80s during Live Aid and We Are the World. Seeing famous musicians leverage their status to raise money for people in need seemed like the ultimate definition of success. What good was fame if you could not use it for something bigger that made the world a better place? I have been a musician my entire life, starting with piano at the age of 5. When I was 13, my parents let me trade the piano in for an electric guitar. I played in bands as a teenager, as a young adult, and eventually I auditioned for music school at CalArts in LA, where I completed my bachelor's in piano performance and wrote my first songs. I moved to New York in 1999 right after music school to pursue my life calling of being a musician. I truly thought it was why I was on earth. After a brief stint in graduate school here in New York, I started my band Pistolera. I use music as my platform to celebrate my culture and share stories. I sang in Spanish about topics like immigration and female empowerment. The mission was culture. Music was the medium. Pistolera released 3 studio albums, toured in 6 countries, performed on big stages, and opened for great artists like Los Lobos, Lila Downs. We had our music featured on Breaking Bad, Sons of Anarchy, and we played the infamous NPR Tiny Desk concert. It sounds awesome, right? We did the damn thing. But just like with any endeavor, there is a behind-the-scenes reality that only people who are doing the same thing could possibly understand. When I tell people I was a touring musician, they just think about the glamour, like, wow, that sounds so fun. Just like running a beauty brand sounds so fun, right? But the reality of being a touring independent musician is that it's 80% logistics and 20% fun. I booked many tours myself, which meant researching clubs, finding contacts, crafting emails, and getting ignored a lot. The no to yes ratio is high. Being a working artist is often a lonely exercise in surviving rejection. It is a test of one's resilience. It requires you to be vulnerable, yet strong-willed. You must dress up, show up, hope the sound person is not a jerk, and that enough people will come that actually care. What could be better training to launch a company than 15 years of that? So about midway into my 15-year music career, my manager at the time asked if I had ever considered writing a children's album. No. What did that even entail? Songs about bath time? He made the suggestion after an outdoor concert we had played at the MacArthur Pavilion in LA. If you live in LA, you're familiar with the MacArthur Pavilion. And so anyway, he noticed that children were dancing in front of the stage. They had no idea that I was singing about immigrants' rights or, really serious topics. They just liked the music. So I thought about it, and in 2010, I launched Muna Luna, a bilingual kids band. It was actually the same band as Pistolera. Like same lineup, same instrumentation, just different songs. And everyone agreed that we could not have a kids band called Pistolera because Pistolera translates to female gunslinger. Luckily for me, my daughter was 3 at the time, so I was authentically immersed in the kids' world, for real. Muna Luna took off immediately. It turned out there was a real need for quality music in Spanish for younger audiences. Our music was educational, it was fun, and it helped kids celebrate their culture. We released 3 studio albums, performed at festivals like the Target Book Festival, the LA Times Book Festival, Lincoln Center, and eventually Muna Luna started to get more gig offers than Pistolera. I was like, what is going on? And when I told people I led a kids band, they looked at me sympathetically and asked me if I played birthday parties. And I would laugh in their face on my way to the bank and say, no, actually, we just performed at the National Mall in Washington, D.C. Thank you very much. So this may be the most important part of the story, and here is where this is all heading. Like, stick with me, y'all. I know you're like, what? Why are you telling us this story? So what I learned from starting a kids band versus leading the band I had originally founded was the difference between creating something to express myself versus creating something for an audience. So here's a question for all of you product makers out there, all of you brand builders out there. Have you created something for yourself because you enjoy making it or you like to make it, or have you created something that somebody else needs? Yes, they can also be the same thing. Like, I really love soap, right? So yes, I enjoy my product, but I didn't create a whole brand because I like to make soap, because that is an inward-facing feeling, right? Like, I also like to travel, and I also like to, take naps in the middle of the day, but how does that serve others, right? So anyway, yes, they can be one and the same, but many times I see that they are not. I have seen many people create and launch brands because they think it's a good idea or they personally like it, but they have not done the market research to determine whether anyone else actually needs it too. To create a company or a brand takes an enormous amount of work, thought, and money. And if you're going to do it, be crystal clear on who it is going to serve, and you need to answer, why do people need it? Ultimately, to create a brand or company or product is to be in service to your customer. No customers, no sales, no money, no business. It's that simple. So you need to zoom out and study what is currently out there. How can you add to what that is, or make something better that already exists, or fill a void in the marketplace? Maybe your product evolves a legacy product. Like, think about Justin's peanut butter cups versus Reese's peanut butter cups, or think about Annie's mac and cheese versus Kraft mac and cheese. They didn't create a new product. They just made something that was already there. They made it better, right? So from playing bilingual music to kids to launching a beauty brand that celebrates culture, there are 2 common threads. Number 1, the niche is where I have found the most success. Being specific about who you are serving makes you discoverable by those looking for you as a solution. It shows clarity of vision and purpose. And I cannot say this enough, clarity always wins. And number 2, the mission is not the product. The mission is the impact you are trying to achieve, and the product is the tool to achieve that. Just like writing songs was not my mission, right? My mission was to share stories and celebrate my culture. That was my mission. Songs were just the medium. Just like soap right now is not my mission. My mission, Nopalera's mission is not to help people get clean. That is not a mission. People can get clean all sorts of ways, right? Soap is just the product that we create to sell to fulfill our mission. It's an important distinction. And when we are in the thick of it, I know we are just trying to survive. But when you do, there will be invaluable lessons that you can use as ammunition for your next thing. Being an independent musician strengthened my resilience muscle. It allowed me to practice courage. It showed me I can survive rejection. It helped me hone my speaking skills. It helped me understand advanced planning, logistics, and how to lead a team. All of these skills are required when running a company. Running Nopalera may seem like a jump or a pivot from lead singer to a beauty brand owner. What? But what I realized is that the mission is actually the same. It is to celebrate culture and share stories and bring people together. I am simply using a different paintbrush. I am guessing that you also have something that you have experienced in your life, both good or bad, that has prepared you for what you're doing now or what you are about to do next. And I believe that every experience has lessons that you can learn and apply to something else. I wish you all the best. Stay strong. Visit nopalera.co to pick up your favorite self-care items for yourself and your friends. Join our mailing list to be the first to hear about new product launches and exclusive promotions. And follow us on IG at nopalera.co. Stay resilient.